Okay, there's a new version of Lava out, and I thought I would do the upgrade and show the process that I go through when I upgrade to a new Lava version. I maintain Lava in a couple different places. I maintain a kernel CI lab. You can see it over my shoulder, and I maintain a repository that has a local Docker installation of Lava that you can run with QEMU. Uh, Looking at the release announcement, I was really excited to see that there's alias support. This is really nice because I use Lava in LKFT, the Linux Kernel Functional Testing Project, and I use Lava in Kernel CI, and they have different standards for how they name the boards in the labs, which makes the test job definitions incompatible between the two. And the only reason they're incompatible is because of the name of the device. Aliases fix that so that we can use the same job template across different Lava installations, even if the administrators of those Lava installations disagree on how devices should be named. So that's really exciting. Uh, it makes LKFT and kernel CI more compatible, so that we can share devices between the two, uh, as well as in my home lab. So let's get started. The first project I'm going to update is Lava Docker Compose. Um, this one's nice because it's all just software. There's no hardware involved. So I can do the upgrade in this project first, just to make sure that there's no big issues before I move on to actually updating my lab, which I'll do second. So let me just go to the repository, make sure it's up to date. And the way this repository works is you just type make, and it will deploy it. Now, I've already run this in the past, so I'm going to test this upgrade two ways. First, I'm going to upgrade the existing database, and then I'm going to delete everything and make sure everything works from scratch. And the reason I'm going to do that is because somebody tried using Lava Docker Compose from scratch, and it didn't work because I hadn't tested that use case in a while. So I'm trying to remember to test both ways. So once this finishes loading, we can go to localhost, and we can see that here's the Lava. So the console log is on the right here, and the UI is on the left. You can see we have a device. Its health is good, but I'm going to run a health check just to make sure that it works. So I'm going to set the device to unknown health status, which will cause Lava to schedule a health check. There it is. And this should just take a moment. Okay, it looks good to me. So we have a known good working state here. Let's try the upgrade. So the upgrade process is documented I try to keep it documented in the README for both cases, for both projects that I'm talking about. And I like to try to follow the instructions so that if they're wrong, I can update them. I'll do the backup, I guess. Doesn't really matter in this case. But that's what a backup looks like. Now we have this tar file of the database. And then I'm going to update the version that's used in Docker Compose. So I'm going to go down here to the server image and update this to 2019-05. I'm going to go down to the dispatcher image, update this to 2019-05. And I'm just going to run make. Now the instructions say to run Docker Compose up. If we look at the make file, it runs Docker Compose up. So it also runs Docker Compose build, which is no longer necessary. That was from when I had to carry a local Docker file. That's no longer the case, so I'm going to remove that. Docker Compose up should fetch the new containers, and there it goes. And I haven't tried this yet, so we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll just debug it together. Okay, so it pulled the dispatcher, now it's pulling this. It pulled the server, now it's pulling the dispatcher. Let's see how big this container is while it runs. Okay, so 391 megabytes and 533 megabytes. Those are pretty big, but we don't really care because we're not deploying this at a large scale, so it doesn't bother me that much. Okay, so it looks like we should be back online. Let's go back and we can verify the version at, if you click on help, it'll show the version right up here, 2019-05 stretch. Awesome. Let's try the health check. So let's go to our devices, set its health to, oops, I need to sign in, it signed me off. Set the health status to unknown to trigger to run a health check, and let's watch it. So everything is looking really good. I don't know how alias support works, but I think I'll save that for updating the actual lab. Let's look and see if it says. In job definition, define aliases for given device type. I'm going to look while this health check runs, see if I can find the documentation for alias support. Device types, alias. Description field, a list of aliases for this device. So it looks like we can specify it in the device type, add the alias to the device type file, which is what I would expect. Okay, let's go back and see. Yep, everything looks good here. So now let's do a make clean, which will destroy our, maybe. I'm trying to decide if we should just destroy the database or if we should destroy everything, but I think I'll just do a make clean and let it build from scratch. And if we look at the make file, make clean does Docker Compose RM, and then it removes the volumes that contain the data as well. So, and let's do a make, and this will do everything from scratch. There was I forgot to look in the log, but there was this database migration in this release. So let me see if I can scroll up and just see that to verify that it happened. I would expect it to happen at the Docker container startup. Yep, there it is right here. Running migrations. Good. So I have a startup script that is in this Lava Docker Compose repo that adds the default devices and device types, which is just a QEMU device. And that really doesn't get tested when you have an existing Postgres database, but when you let it create the database from scratch, it tests that, and it also tests like the timing issues that can happen between the server coming up and the database coming up, and then the server putting all of the schema into the database and all that stuff. So it's good to do it from scratch. And I don't know what's happening here. I kind of lost the terminal. Oh yeah. I was looking to make sure it actually did the database from scratch, and it did. It did it quite quickly. Okay, so we should see no jobs or one job. Good. The health check is running as the first job, which means the database was effectively destroyed and created. And if we watch this health check job, it's successful. That's great. So everything's looking really good. I'm going to commit that change and move on to my Lava Lab. I think it's worth noting that doing that upgrade using containers is very straightforward. Basically read the release announcement just to be aware of the things that are in the release as usual, because sometimes there are instructions or something specific in there. I'm going to update the README for this as well. And then it, effectively is just, there's no special instructions, so I'm just going to put from here to go from 04 to 05, 04, 05. That's it. Okay, I'm going to remove my backup because I don't care about that. And let me just take a peek here. Yep, remove the build. Okay. I always do commit with -v because then it shows me the diff inline, and I can just, it gives you one last chance to double check everything. Okay, that's it. I think I can just push this directly in this case. Okay, now we're going to go to my actual Lava host, which is lava.therub.org. It's publicly available. And this is running production kernel CI jobs on 2 boards and a QEMU device. So the 2 boards are an X15. That's the one where it's named differently than how it's named in LKFT. And I have a BeagleBone Black. BeagleBone Black actually uses the LKFT style name. For historical reasons in kernel CI, it's kind of an exceptional case, I think. Okay, so let me go to my lava.therub.org. I'll just pull up the repo here. I'll put these links in the description, but basically there's 2 GitHub repos. One is called Lava Docker Compose. That's the first one we were working on. The second one is called lava.therub.org, and that contains the actual Docker Compose stuff that I use to maintain this lab. So this lab is maintained the same way. The only difference is I run it in daemon mode rather than in like the foreground. So it's running on here. And the first thing I'm going to do is just verify there's nothing going on with kernel CI. This is I take downtime when I do my upgrade because I haven't cared enough to do it better. So that is a caveat that I have in how I'm doing it here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just bring it down. I'll look at my README again. Docker Compose down. So I use up-d, that brings it up as a daemon. So it puts it in the background and it automatically restarts it when my server restarts and stuff like that, which is really nice. So I'm gonna do Docker Compose down. You'll notice there's more containers running here. I have the server dispatcher, Squid for doing caching. I have an NFS container. I have a TFTP container. I have a container for doing the serial interfaces, and I have my Postgres container. Then I'm going to do my backup. This is important in this case. Because I do have jobs on there that are production. Now, kernel CI doesn't actually require you to keep around your old jobs. You can delete those. After the kernel CI job runs on Lava, it pulls down the log and doesn't retain any dependency on the Lava job. But I have a lot of space on this device, so I'm gonna keep the data for now. I don't see a reason to delete it. That said, I maintain this in a way that you could redeploy the entire thing from scratch. You could just delete everything and do a redeploy on a fresh server, and except for the historical job data, everything should just come up. Of course, this repository has specific things for the specific boards, like the serial ID of the USB serial devices I'm using and things like that. So it's not generic, but it is. All right. But it is maintained in a way that I could reproduce this from scratch every time. Okay, let me just do a search in here, 404. So there's the server, and okay, so I noticed that, so I have a Lava Dispatcher container locally because it needs Docker installed. And I noticed that in the README that they fixed that. So the dispatcher Docker now includes Docker CE CLI. So let me just look at my dispatcher Docker, because I think I can get rid of this now. So here's what I'm doing, is I'm installing Docker CE CLI, and that's what the release says that it installs. I also installed Docker CE, which I assume is a dependency. So let's just test this before I actually make this change. Verify the release notes. So I'm going to run Docker run -rm-it Lava software 2019.05, and I just want to run bash because I want to verify inside the new container Lava. That's in the dispatcher, I think. I just want to verify in the container that the Docker CLI does actually exist before I remove it from my environment here. The reason this is needed is because if you're running Lava Fed is a way for the Lava team to verify Lava releases in your Lava lab against your own devices. And it calls Docker to do that. So you need to have the Docker CLI in your Docker container running the dispatcher in order for that to happen. So I had added that locally, and this is often what happens. When we find a thing, I'll add it to my local Docker, and then it'll get upstreamed, and then I can remove it from my local Docker. So I'm going to run Docker, and it exists. And that's all I wanted to verify. That's great. So that means that I can do, let me just look in my dispatcher Docker before I delete it. Yep, I can do git rm-rf dispatcher Docker, and I can do Docker compose. And I'm going to go back to using the upstream image directly, which is great. So, maybe it's worth noting here. So if you use the upstream image directly, it looks like this in Docker Compose. If you need to make changes, you can provide a directory that contains a Docker file, and in that Docker file, you can start it from the upstream image and then add in the piece you need that the upstream image isn't shipping with. And that's a really nice pattern for composing these things. So I'm going to get rid of that. That's great. That's a little piece of technical debt, I think, that was just solved. So I should see that directory is deleted. Docker compose is modified. Let me just do a git diff docker compose just to verify. Yep, I changed 2019-04 to 05 twice. And I did a database backup, did I not? I guess I haven't made a backup yet, so let's do that. Or was I in a different directory? Oh, I see what happened. My command here puts it in my home directory directly rather than in the Git repo, so that's why I didn't see it. So it overwrote it, made a new one, which is fine. So I have my backup from today, because the date command that I put in there is per day, so it's not. So it just overwrote the previous one. Okay, so I think I can do Docker compose up -d now. And we'll see what happens. We're going to verify that this works before we make the change for the alias. The alias change will be for this AM57XX Beagle X15 device. So this device name is a kernel CI style device name. It's based on the DTB file in the kernel, whereas LKFT just calls it X15 because LKFT uses like the board's marketing name rather than the board's DTB name. Okay, it's up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my workers, and I think there's a way to get it to rerun all. I want to rerun all the health checks, and I think you can do that by taking the dispatcher, turning it off and I haven't done this, but yeah. So I think if I put it into maintenance mode and then I put it back online, it'll rerun all the health checks. Yes, perfect. So put them all in unknown health, and if I refresh, I should see them all running a health check job. Perfect. This Lava Docker fed or Docker Lava fed host is the Docker device type that is used by Lava Fed. I can hear the PDU clicking behind me, turning the X15 and BeagleBone on and off. So I'm just going to wait for these to pass. QEMU is done. While we do that, let's go look at what we'll have to do for that device type change. That's going to be in the server overlay. I forget the path. Lava server dispatcher config. Conveniently, I already have a device type file. I don't always have to carry a device type file. If I can just use the one that's already in Lava, then I don't need to have one here locally. I have one here locally because the device name wasn't right. So all mine does is it extends x15.jinja2, which is how Lava distributes the x15 definition. And since my file is called AM57XX Beagle X15, that's the device type name I need. So that's all it was doing. And then I also had to change NFS to Force version 3 because of some lab issue I can't figure out. It shouldn't be necessary. But that's what I do. So I think what I can do here is well, I guess I need to look at Lava's X15 to see if they added the alias there, because this should probably be an upstream change to add that alias to the device type. And I didn't. So let me go down and use this window. So I happen to know that the device types are in, I think they're in here. Let me pull. Make sure I'm on master. Surprised there were no changes. Okay, I must have pulled this recently. So let's look at Lava's X15 definition here. And what I'm curious about is where I would add the alias. So we saw in the help it said alias. Alias is one of the descriptive fields. Okay, what's a descriptive field? That just takes me back to where I'm at. Okay, this is getting circular. Okay, alias, a string which can be used to relate the description. Okay, so I think I need an example of, let me look for an example of one of these things in here. Let me just see if there's an example. No. Let's see if there's an example of processor name. No. Architecture. No. I'm going to look for bit count. Database elements for device type. Can be modified using the Django admin interface. The following fields are supported. Oh, do I want to put it there? Oh, let's go look there. Administrative interface. Device types. Ah, yes. Bits, cores, processor, architecture. I don't see an alias, though. Let's go back and check on the health checks. I forgot about that. Just to make sure we're back online and everything's working. So status is the easiest page. 4 out of 4 devices online and idle. Great. So I think the upgrade is complete. I'm going to figure out the alias thing offline because this is becoming less interesting, I think. But it's a nice feature, and I'm happy to have it. So I just have to figure out how to turn it on for my lab and then get it turned on for the LKFT lab. So with that, thank you. I hope you found this useful. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And take care.